All right, here I go. There I go. I apologize for my little hiatus. I apologize. I got my computer glass on today. I don't like staring directly at the screen because obviously it does damage to your eyes over time. So we're gonna get to this. Yes, we're gonna get to this. Let me wipe off my camera screen. I see my thing is going fast. I hope we pick this up. Oh man. Let me see how this is looking. Let me see how this is sounding. Okay. We're gonna get to this. Let me wipe off my camera screen. I see my thing is going fast. Okay. I hope we pick this up. Oh man. Yeah. Without having to shout out certain companies, AT&T, that they need to step their game up on their internet and things like that. I don't know if they had any outages in my areas and whatever the case is, but yeah, it is what it is. Technical issues, but I'm here. Let me see. I'm here. Internet and things like that. Sound. How's my sounds going? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully the pickup. Get some water in me. All right. I was supposed to do this cast last night, and I would have done this last night. However, there was technical issues. There was technical issues beyond my control. I'm looking at the picture, and it's still a little spotty and whatnot. It ain't as clear as it could be. Though it looks clear on my end, it's still a little spotty. So we'll just hope for the best, because I really want to get off into this today. Everybody, first of all, y'all know about FASM Fest that is coming next week, the first American Street and Music Festival. Yeah, you see me going through our little issues right here, right? All right. All right. Still listening back at it. We'll just we're gonna work what we got, until they fix whatever issues they got going on. AT&T, whatever issues you got going on, AT&T, y'all need to fix your shit. You need to fix your shit, because I got broadcasts to put out. The hiatus is hard as hell. I need my internet up. I might have to start checking for Verizon, man. I don't know if it's an outage. I don't know if it's beyond their control, but AT&T, they say they're supposed to be the best. I don't know. I don't know what stuff like this, they doing stuff like this. I don't know. I'm looking at, as I'm doing it live, I'm watching, I'm looking at the thing up there. It said the sound is pretty solid. Okay. Sound is pretty solid. I'm checking my sound. I don't know what stuff like this, they doing stuff like this. All right. But yeah, it's not me, y'all. Trust me, it's not me. I got so much. We're gonna get it all straight, though. We're gonna get it all straight. Anyway, in Lord Amen I trust, and in Lord Amen I share this message. Always start with the name of the Lord, invoke the name of the true Lord Amen. I'm your host, Mr. Buck Manhattan, and this is Supreme American TV. Like I said, Buck Manhattan is taking over the building. Mr. Buck Manhattan, put some respect on my goddamn name, because Benjamin Manhattan, the intellectual Lord Benjamin Manhattan, he's the guy that's over there on Mentellect Extended, which you could go listen to my channel, Mentellect Extended. Mentellect Extended is the intellectual Lord Benjamin Manhattan. He's over there. Mr. Buck Manhattan over here. And true to my name, true to my nickname, Buck, which my beautiful wives gave me a nickname. And I said, you know what? I like that, because, we call out, I got my wives got nicknames, we give them short names. And all my children got it. So I felt left out. So they gave me that, and I liked it. I approved it. I kind of initiated, because I'm like, Buck, it's a name they gave in this to strong black men during slavery, strong so-called black men, bronzemen. Buck, they used to say the bucks and whatnot, the strong men. That's also connected to deers. They call it male deers bucks, because we're strong, they breed strong and whatnot, So they try to put negative connotation with Tariq Nasheed came with that movie, that Buck movie. And yeah, they wanted to break the strongest men, they say sexually or whatever the case may be. Not this Buck. Never. But it's very true into my attribute, because y'all know me from the old Mentellect days. I was Buck Manhattan right there. I was just, buck wild. You know how my approach is. I just get it, passionate about things. And I get passionate about things. I get rolling on things. I get raw and cut on things. Like I'm gonna get raw and cut on tonight. So we're going to be discussing Europeans. Could Europeans have survived in America without the help, without first Americans, us helping them? It's black in the title, just so y'all understand who I'm talking about, what I'm talking about. But could they have survived in America for real if we didn't help them survive? If we didn't intervene when these Europeans, these Caucasians, these colonizers came over here looking for a better life, when they came from England, most of them, a lot of them just came from England. I think some of them might have made their way over from Scotland. The Irish and all those people came a little later. I'm talking about pre-George Washington. See, because a lot of people, y'all only know the history of America in like the 1700s. That's all you know, okay? But they don't tell you about the early European settlers who came here into America. It was a while before these Europeans got a foothold in on America. It was a while, a nice little while. They didn't immediately get a foothold in on America. It took them about 300 years or so, roughly. Because from the time they started coming here in the 1400s to about the 1700s, and not even really then, really, it wasn't until like the late 1800s, because they were still trying to move westward, expansion and whatnot, when they got into the areas where it was fertile land, like the Carolinas and places like that, places where our people were, okay, upstate New York, things like that. It wasn't until they figured out how to, well, they didn't figure out. They came over here and they were trying to survive the early European settlers who came from England, places like that, because prior to colonization, there were other groups of people that were coming here from the Portuguese with the slave trade. You had the Spanish, you had people that was, came before the English, and they never were able to really get a successful settlement here in the Americas because there was so many indigenous so-called black people here. And let's just keep it real and all the way straight. The only indigenous people here in America in the 1300s, 1400s, 12, going all the way back, the only indigenous people that were here in this land was our people, black Americans, so-called black Americans, first Americans, the indigenous people of this land. That, if you look on any of these history channels, because I'm noticing a lot of these so-called history channels are popping up with these narratives about early English settlers, because a lot of them love to paint this pretty picture of Europeans coming here and they looking all clean and all put together, and they coming and talking to the indigenous Indians who look mongoloid, by the way, with little brown skin. They get these mongoloid Indians, and they said they came here, they were dealing with the people and whatever the case may be. But that's fantasy, that's cap, pure cap, lies. When these Europeans came here, most of them was coming here because England was using America as a penal colony, and they would send English over here, the ones who were in the jails, the ones who were lawbreakers. A lot of their the punishment was to send them when they wanted to empty their jails out, because their jails were always full with all kinds of degenerates. So they would empty these prisons out periodically and just send these people into America. And because they was using America as a penal colony. In other words, they dumped their white trash here in America. The term white people didn't come about till about 1651. Now, I was watching a documentary where they surprisingly told the truth about how Europeans were down bad. Yeah, I gave that documentary out. I think it took place. I want to look at it again, but it took place. I'm gonna look at. It was on. I just want to read that real quick, just so I have the reference point. Okay, bear with me. Like I said, AT&T, man, for you guys and your goddamn service, boy. Jeez. But anyway, hold on, let me see, just so I can get this right. That's this stuff loading up. But anyway, it's one of these history channels where they were basically talking about how bad the Europeans were, how bad they had when they came over here into America. Okay, talk about how bad it was for them, and how they were trying to survive here. Every settlement they tried to set up here, first one being in Virginia, that was a settlement they in Roanoke. A lot of those people starved out there. A lot of those Europeans starved out there because they came with their own food rations, and I guess they thought, I don't know what they were, I guess they thought that food would be plentiful and bountiful, or that they would somehow hook up with the indigenous people. And a lot of them did hook up with the indigenous people. The indigenous people eventually ended up enslaving a lot of them because they had no other choice, because England left them for dead. When these people came over here, England, for the most part, I mean, England had communication with them. It was like months and months, where they got, back in contact with them, and they was left here over here to forage on their own. So obviously, these people trying to survive, they started building, log cabins and wood structures. They were using wood and building homes and things like that. They settled in Virginia. The first Caucasian European girl born in America, her name was Virginia Drake or Virginia Davis. I thought it was Drake, but her name was Virginia. That's what Virginia, the state of Virginia, is named after the little white girl, the first Caucasian girl that was born here, Virginia Drake or Dare or whatever her name is, Dare or Drake, one of those. And again, these Europeans were really down bad here in America. They were really down bad. They didn't know how to survive in this environment. They didn't know how to survive here in America. This was a whole different landmass for them. They were used to England, and obviously it had to be really messed up over there, because I don't know nobody that would come from a whole different landmass to a whole nother place where there's no, you have no real, you really have no, reference point for survival. People that you don't know, you're just coming over here, and the biggest thing they started doing here, some of them they were planting tobacco, because they saw the indigenous people smoking tobacco. By the indigenous people, I mean so-called black people. Again, let's get this straight. It was not the Siberians. They're lying. Let's get that out the way. It was not the Siberians. It was not these brown people, Asian features or Eastern. That's a lie. It was straight up so-called black people, calling black people today. That's who they saw here. The copper-colored races who were found here by the Europeans. Right. And the Europeans, because they did not or could not survive, because they didn't know how to hunt on the land. Obviously, they didn't know how to hunt. Right. They didn't know how to obviously they didn't know how to fish too well and hunt. They were not the outdoors when they showed themselves that. It was not. They were not. They learned all that outdoorsmen, hunting and fishing and chasing animals through the indigenous black people that was here. The indigenous first Americans were here. The original indigenous Indians of America are so-called black people. And so they helped them, and some of them, a lot of them did help them. Okay. And because in these settlements, because this was before slavery, they didn't know how to survive here. So a lot of these Europeans began to starve here. A lot of them were killed off. A lot started to starve here. A lot of them went to the indigenous people to help, and a lot of the indigenous so-called black people helped them. They helped these people out, right? Fed these people, even took a lot of them as slaves. Because in the documentary, it was talking about how a lot of the Europeans, the women and the children, were working in indigenous work camps, hot iron, hammering out copper. Right? They were hammering out copper, I guess, to make spears and bows and arrows, whatever they were using copper for. They was using the Caucasians in return for food. They would become part of the tribe. They would enslave them, and they would, well, I wouldn't say enslave, but they basically took them when they was really looking out for them, because they didn't have to help them at all. Because the indigenous so-called black people here, they were good. They were already, they knew the land. They've been here since forever. They knew how to hunt. They knew how to fish. They knew how to do everything. They was building homes. In fact, in this documentary, they said that a lot of the indigenous people had 2-story homes. I kid you not, made out of stone. But then they try to lie and say they didn't know how they did that. They probably copied from the white people. They got to come with their racist lies. How are you sitting up here learning and copying from white people, and white people couldn't even survive here? You really believe these Caucasians was building 2-story structures with stone and all this other stuff, and they couldn't even feed themselves here? You see the cap? You see the audacity of these people act like they was just, so advanced and whatnot, but you couldn't even feed yourself, couldn't even wash yourself properly. A lot of these people die from dysentery, all kinds of diseases and things like that. All kinds of they would die from all kinds of diseases here because they couldn't take care of themselves. They couldn't feed themselves. You can go back and look. This from their own words, and that ain't me now. This from their own words. They couldn't take care of themselves. They were down bad. They couldn't feed themselves. So, of course, what did they have? After a while, you guessed it, they resorted to cannibalism. Okay, look up the Donner Party. Look up all these Caucasians in Roanoke and Virginia. They lost their minds. They started eating their children. They was eating snakes at first. Then they got from eating snakes. I said to myself, well, goddamn. I'm like, these people. You had all kinds of animals running around. Come on, this is Virginia back in the 1600s, the 1600s. You had all kind of animals running around. You had deer running around. You had wild horses. You had all kinds of animals running around here. Buffalo. But obviously, they were too slow to catch them. But the indigenous people, they knew how to catch the animals. And like I said, they relied heavily on the indigenous people to feed them, because they couldn't even eat here. The indigenous black people, not no mongoloids, see, because they don't like to admit that, because they'd rather make you think it was some of these indigenous Mongolian Siberians that was out here feeding their asses, but it wasn't. It was black people taking care of them, taking pity on them. Some of the so-called black indigenous people did it. And you could go look this up for the people that's down there, because it was this guy, it's these guys making these videos set up, because one of them came on my video when I was talking about how the real American cowboys, the real cowboys of America was black men and black indigenous people. Told you they tried to just blow totally out of history, thus the term black people, and then start reassigning our history, our presence in America, our accomplishments in America to white people and those Mongoloid Siberians, them Asians. All right, who are not the American Indians, and they're not, and the white people are not cowboys. They used to call themselves cattle men. So anyway, as they started to descend into all kinds of depravity, as they started to descend, all right, as they started to descend into all kinds of depravity, eating children, eating dead people, eating dead flesh. Bob, you would think to yourself, damn, well, they show themselves the outdoors, which I'm like, damn, y'all couldn't catch a rabbit, y'all couldn't catch a squirrel, something, all these animals running around. You got to start eating people, eating each other. They was eating the snake. They even caught some of the indigenous bronze people and started eating them. They even caught some of the indigenous bronze people, so-called black people here, and started eating black people. Okay, they resorted to cannibalism. They love to claim we black people come from Africa. Y'all eat y'all cannibals. BS. First of all, we're not African. Number one, and number two, the people who recorded being cannibals here were them. It's out of their own mouths. They had to resort to cannibalism. Okay, they couldn't even feed themselves. Okay, they couldn't even feed their damn self. They was running around dirty and nasty with fleas, ticks, and they was really down bad here until something changed. Something changed everything, and you know what that was? The introduction of slavery in 1619, 1620, with the first 20 some odd Negroes that were brought into the Carolinas, and they started using the indigenous people who were doing everything here, who were hunting and fishing and building and doing all this stuff here. They started enslaving those people and getting them to do the work for them. They figured that by taking the patches of land, the huge swatches of land and community that the indigenous people lived on, because that's all they did. So they don't like to tell that truth, but that's exactly what happened. They came, these European marauders, these savages, these people were just eating each other, right? They came and started rolling up with guns and everything and just taking their land from the indigenous people, killing the men and essaying the women, sexually assaulting and raping the women, taking the children and making and so then the indigenous villages became the plantations. They turned them into plantations. They basically started to monetized the villages and turned them into plantation, and they enslaved all the indigenous people there. That's how slavery really started. That's how slavery started, and that was a game changer for these people. They took the people who already lived here, black people, indigenous black people, not no mongoloids, because they tell this line in the document this guy was doing, because my correcting, I said, get it straight. The people that would be the people, the Indians that ended up, being enslaved was not no Native Americans, because Native Americans always quick to tell you that they were never slaves in America. And they right, they wasn't, because number one, they couldn't do nothing. And number two, they didn't come till later into America in the 1800s. That's when you start seeing the presence of those people, the ones who look like Asians and Siberians. But prior to that, the indigenous Indian tribe all throughout America was black people. Okay. And you think about it, it makes sense, because they say they supposedly lied, because when they say they brought Negroes into Carolina to enslave them, they didn't say Africans, they said Negroes. Negroes are not Africans, because you can look and see where at one point in time all people were referred to as the American Indians. Then slavery got going, they started calling us the American Negroes, because a law was passed where they couldn't, I think it was from England or somebody, whatever, because no government was set up here yet, where they didn't want, they said they wasn't going to enslave the indigenous people. But keep in mind, they were already enslaved people. They had like a good 200 years before they came with that law not to enslave indigenous people. But they had a good 200-year head start in a lot of areas like Virginia, where they made slavery legal. See, because they couldn't survive without slaves. The Europeans could not survive without indigenous black slaves helping them. And again, anybody want to challenge that, we can go head for head with that, and I can show and prove that. But a lot of these people that like to change history, these racist historians, these racist Caucasians, and all these other races who like to buy into the story that they got us from Africa and we just came here to pick cotton and chop tobacco. First of all, riddle me this. I just told you in the 1600s, these people were still down bad. They lucked in, start changing until they instituted slavery of the indigenous people here, because the indigenous people know how to do everything. You've never seen the Mongoloid Native Americans ever living in any brick structures, any two-story structures. They always lived in teepees, and they never disputed that. They always lived in teepees. So the American Indians here who was in homes and brick and things like that was us. That was not them. They like to take our history and attribute it to them just so that they can erase the indigenous black culture that was here in America already, that had nothing to do with Africa. Again, remember I said the Portuguese said this themselves, and English said this, and all the people that the early people that came here before the European conquest and the colonization of this place, they told how the Indians looked. And even in the Library of Congress, they got pictures of how the indigenous people look, the Indians. That lady Tasha's eyes showed it. So if anybody gets a chance to go to the Library of Congress, if there's any doubt to what's being said here, you can go in, and there's a book called America. I think the text is called America, and it shows, and it's like the book is like 600 years old, or 500-600 years old, where they basically show you how the early people of America, the drawings and everything else. These are black people, man. These are black people. You find so-called black people, that term black people was a term of erasure to hide the real nationality and the real look of the indigenous people. They already showed you how they looked. They showed you how they looked. These were so-called black people with woolly hair, woolly to curly hair, copper-colored skin people, who you see these people today, they would be called black people. Shout out to Dan Calloway. I was watching something he did up the other day. It was very interesting. Go check out the last thing he did where he was talking. He had this guy on there called Rod Diggs or Jod Diggs. He was actually talking about the guy Paul Cuffey, who exposed all this, how they tried to Africanize Paul Cuffey. These Caucasians, as soon as they got a foothold into America, the first thing they started doing is to try to Africanize the indigenous black Americans here. And I'm using the term black so y'all understand what I'm saying, because the term black does not apply to Africans. The Africans were never called black people or Negroes. Now, however, the Portuguese, because they were heavy in the slave trade before the English, the Portuguese made a distinction between the Negros, the negros de terras, meaning the blacks of the land, meaning America, and the negros de Guinea, meaning the blacks of Africa, meaning the slaves of Africa and the slaves of America. So they were making a distinction between the two. They love to try to, the racist historians want to mesh us into one, the Africans, which that's false, because I want you to think about this. If you just had a bunch of people that were down bad here, couldn't survive here, didn't know the land and things like that, why would you go to a whole, now you come from one continent, which is Europe, and then you come into America, right? And you starve, you can't survive here. So you're going to go and make boats to go and get Africans who even more inept than you, and you're going to bring them here. What are they going to do? What were the Africans going to do? They don't know how to grow shit here. They don't know how to grow nothing on the land. You didn't know how to grow nothing on the land. So make that make sense to me, why they would go and get Africans and get them into slavery. And here you're going to bring a bunch of people here. Y'all already dying of starvation and things like that. You're going to bring a bunch of people here to pick cotton. First of all, cotton don't just grow out the ground. You got to grow and harvest cotton, right? And the Europeans didn't know how to do. Okay, you see me? We back. Okay. Okay. Can everybody see me? We back. All right. I apologize for this, man. This man, it really, I'm sorry. We back. Bear with me, man. We're gonna get through this because I really gotta say my say on this. All right, bear with me. Check us out. It's not me, man. It's these people, man. It's these people. We're gonna get through this. All right. I gotta do my cash, so I hope I don't have this issue. I'm gonna have to change. I might have to go to Verizon or something like this. AT&T, y'all suck. Y'all need to really get on your job. Okay. So let me say this. So I want y'all to think about this now. Think about what I said. You can do the history on this because you got a lot of handkerchief head Sambos out here who's, man, true. The white man brought us from Africa and see, they saved us. They picked and they got us from Africa and see, that's how we got here. And they taught us Christianity and and that's what saved us. We was in Africa and they helped us bring us here. Bullshit. First of all, they didn't help us do nothing because they couldn't even help themselves. How are they going to help us do anything? They couldn't even help themselves. So let's go with this African narrative. They want you to believe. They want you to believe that they brought a bunch of Africans over here. They want you to believe they brought a bunch of Africans here, right? Who was swinging in trees, as they said. They was living primitive themselves. So they brought a bunch of Africans to a whole other land. They already foreigners here. Keep this in mind. And this is who saved them. This is who saved the Europeans, or they started enslaving them. That's what they brought them here for. So now you got to feed those people you brought here. You already starving. You got to feed the people that you brought here. Does that even make sense? That they went and got Africans? Does that make sense? Or does it make sense that they just enslaved the people that was right next to them? They went and got guns and enslaved them and took their land and forced them to start building for them. What makes more sense? What makes more sense? Who ended up being slaves here? Think about this. Because the whole African slave ship story don't even make no goddamn sense. It don't. Why you starting over here Don't make it seem like they was balling out over here. They was just living and they was just doing their thing and they was pioneering and doing all this stuff. No, they was not. See? No, they was not. Yeah, I might have to turn my camera off. I might have to. Yeah. I'm see how to go about this because you know the internet and everything is crazy. But yeah, so they want you to think. All right, I might have to. They want you to believe that they was balling out over here. That they had it to where they could go and get slaves from Africa, all this other nonsense. Man, come on, man. Hold on. Oh boy. Hold on, bear with me. I'm going to turn my camera off. Okay. Can anybody hear me now? I had to get off camera. I don't know. Maybe that might be you right there. All right. Can everybody hear me? They want you to believe that they was born over here. They really want you to believe they had it going on over here where they can go and get slaves. Because y'all believe the BS until people do the real history. How they go from being down bad over here, starving, disease and stuff like that, to be able to go and bring slaves in from Africa and have them picking cotton and cutting tobacco. How they do that? How'd they do that? How were they able to? How were they able to do that? Make that make sense to me. How were they able to do that? They wasn't. They lying. They're lying. They was down bad over here. It was the indigenous people that they enslaved and took their land. That's how they got a leg up in America. It is the indigenous black people, not mongoloids, the indigenous black people that built the economy of America for these Caucasians. It was the indigenous Americans that fed them. It was the indigenous Americans that put them in the position where they got land, where they got animals and food, all of that. Indigenous people did everything, grew the cotton, grew the tobacco, put out the indigo. The indigenous black people did all of that. Created denim, all the stuff the indigenous people did because we were already here doing it for ourselves. So what makes more sense? Go get a bunch of goddamn Africans who over in Africa ain't doing shit because they self even said the Africans are primitive. The Africans wasn't, backwards as they white man say. So if that's the case, then why would you go and get them? Why would you go and get those people? Why would you go get people who down bad like you to come help you? What good would African slaves have done in America? Make that make sense to me. What good would African slaves have been in America? I want y'all to really make that make sense. Because see, they just tell black people they tell the world anything, and they think because they got an organized system, they have an organized system of education, okay, propaganda machine to tell lies and say things that even make sense. I keep telling you, these people were down bad here in America. They were starving over here. Okay, they didn't start. They nothing changed for them until they started enslaving the indigenous black populations that were here. That's when things changed for them, which makes all the sense in the world because we were enslaved. A lot of our people were in slavery now, weren't they? They wanted to have a permanent slave population of black people here, and the whites are basically running them because white people didn't know how to do shit here in America. They didn't know how to do a goddamn thing. They didn't know how to wash their asses. They didn't know how to treat themselves for medical problems. They was depending on the indigenous black people over here, the indigenous black population, the real Americans, the copper-colored people. That's who helped them. That's what gave them a leg up in America. They wouldn't have been shit in America if it wouldn't have been for our people. They would have died off here in America. And that's the goddamn truth. They would have died off here in America. And it was in 1622. This picks up at 1622. Now keep in mind, this is before 1651. 1651 is when they came with the term white people. Prior to 1651, there was no such term as white people. That didn't start happening until they introduced slavery. See, once they introduced slavery into Virginia, right? That's why even to this day, Virginia is one of the most racist states because they have a history of racism from these Europeans that came in, right? When they was down bad and they had to depend on the indigenous people. They had to depend on the indigenous people. And of course, as the indigenous people helped these nasty bastards, as the indigenous people helped these filthy ass snow monkeys, after they helped them get out of being in poverty, helped them from being sick, helped them, got land. They took land from our people, everything, like a bunch of damn parasites. Then when they got their leg up, when they got a foot up and whatnot, then all of a sudden they started acting like, oh, we white people. In 1651, they came with that we white people stuff. Prior to that, they were down bad. It was the indigenous black people that helped them. It was the indigenous black people that they put in slavery. They had like a 200-year lag on everything. Then after a while, after about the 1800s, they started bringing a few Africans here, but not many. Because again, the Africans they brought over here, most of them went to South America. They went to South America and they went into the islands. They didn't bring them in North America because they had no purpose for them here. They had no purpose for them. They just enslaved the indigenous black people. And like I said, that's who this country's found. That's what this country's financial structure was built on. You know, the indigenous black people were worth money because they put us on the stock market. They were selling us on the stock market. The stock market was like a big ass auction block in New York City. They brought us down and, like I said, and sold us on the auction block because we built up America. All them buildings you see in Wall Street was built by slave labor. Okay, all the buildings, all the structure you see was built by indigenous slaves, black people. It wasn't no immigrants here, and the Mongoloids wasn't helping do nothing. They wasn't even over here yet. We built up New York. We built the White House. We did that. You had some Europeans helping, but we did all the heavy lifting, and we did a lot of the laying out the foundation for Washington D.C. You see, but they want to bury that history. They want to Africanize that history because they're ashamed to say that had it not been for indigenous black people here in America, indigenous black populations, which go back to the Mesoamericans, the Olmecs, the Aztec, the Inca, Mayan, all so-called black civilizations, they just came over here into North America. So our people had a background in building and maintaining societies when we came into America. And then they broke down into villages, and this is where all your indigenous tribes came from. The indigenous tribes came from the Mayans. The Mayans came from South America and Mexico and all them places, and they came further into North America. And a lot of them ended up in places like Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, all Florida. They went all over the damn place, all over the South, wherever it was warm, wherever they could grow food at and things like that and build homes. And that's what they did. And when these Europeans came over here, when the colonizers started coming over here, they relied heavily on them. They wasn't on shit over here. The English crown, as they say, the European, they wasn't doing no better. They was over there. England was full of disease. These people was dying off over there. So a lot of them, they was leaving England to escape plagues and all kind of stuff and famine over there. Just like the Irish, when they came over here into America, they was escaping the damn potato famine when they came over here. They came over here with nothing. And what they did was carve up the land and take land from the indigenous black people that was here. And they started trying to push us down to the bottom and put themselves up on top of us, took land from our people and everything. So whenever they talk about the Indian raids and Indians and taking and kidnapping Indian children, they talking about our people. They kidnapped our people and put them on plantations, took them by gunpoint. When you talk about the night riders and all this other stuff, and which became your police departments, those police departments were formed, and they admit this themselves, to keep indigenous black people from running off plantations because they needed them. They needed them. The Europeans could not have survived here without them. Go and look at how they were before 1619. Before 1619, 1620, see how they was living here. They was not bringing no damn slaves. They didn't have no slaves before 1619, 1620. So please, Nation of Islam, stop with that bullshit. But talking about they had some slaves they was bringing over from Africa in 1555. They did not bring no slaves from no Africa, no 1555. They did not. They did not bring no slaves from no Africa. They didn't bring no slaves from Africa here. The indigenous black population that was here. Y'all need to stop telling that lie and listen to these white people lie to you about some history when you could go right back and see that these people are doing nothing but lying. They don't want to admit that had it not been for indigenous black people here, because they hate our people, they hate our because number one, we used to let them starve in Virginia and places like that. We didn't help them. Remember I said the word nigger comes from the word niggardly, which is what the English call our people. They call us stingy people, niggardly people. And over time, because our people was like, the indigenous wild people, they was killing a lot of them off. They was because what they were doing, they were taking our children, kidnapping our children, and taking them to these education centers, aka these programming centers, because they basically wanted to erase the indigenous mindset from our people, from the children, and they knew that they could indoctrinate and enslave the children. So they would create these schools, which one of them was Harvard, before they started educating white people there. They would create these propaganda centers, these learning centers, to basically strip our people by first and tell them, see, y'all really African. That's where that African bullshit started coming from. Y'all African, y'all need Jesus, and white people are connected to God, and y'all black, and y'all should serve white people. This the type of shit they was telling our children. And when our people didn't want their children educated, when our people found their children were being kidnapped by these people, kidnapping women and children and whatnot to be in bondage, that's when our people started killing these people off. In 1715 to 1717, the Yamasee, which are black Indians in the Carolinas, they wiped out like 1,500 Caucasians. They said 1,500 white people was wiped out by the Yamasee because they were trying to enslave them and kidnap their people, kidnap the women, the children, because they couldn't survive without them. So they wanted to permanently enslave our people because they knew that we were a viable workforce. They didn't need no goddamn Africans. Those top Africans, they some Africans. That don't even make sense. Anybody that repeats that lie, you need to have your exam. Anybody repeats this lie that they went and got damn Africans. Africans could not have helped nothing here. Africans can't do shit for themselves here. They talk all this nonsense about what Africans do in Africa. Let me tell you something. If it wasn't for indigenous black people here, black Americans, first Americans, because we're going to stop this black people shit. But I'm only using black just so y'all understand. If it wasn't for first Americans, we use the term first American. If it wasn't for the copper colored people who are not African, the Africans couldn't have survived here, because most of the things, the laws and things were passed for them to come here and whatnot and basically eat off of us and the things we fought for. Let me back up. So they wanted that, they needed our people because, again, it don't even make no sense that they brought Africa here. It makes zero sense. Again, these people were starving and they were down bad. Why would you bring Africans here who died? A lot of them was dying as you was bringing them here into the Americas. Again, they didn't bring them here. That's a lie. If that's the case, how come they only laid 2 slave ships, some good ship, Jesus, and some All-Star ship? Again, Tariq Nasheed tried to make that shit up, but they didn't bring no Africans here. That's a lie. That is a lie. They enslaved indigenous, and they had a lot of sellouts that was helping them. Again, because they were educating children. See, they were educating the children so that they would turn against their parents. Because even in that story, they indoctrinated children, indoctrinated, or what they call educated. Educated is another way of saying indoctrinated. Educated indigenous snitch on their parents, snitch on, wipe the Europeans out of America, wipe out the white people in America. The educated children started snitching on the parents of the Europeans, and they would go and kill all the parents and the old elders who wanted to get rid of the Europeans. So that's why they really wanted to indoctrinate the children, and that was the same to this day. That's the same to this day. Okay, that's the real history. Here we go. That's history. They wanted to basically they were creating what the Europeans were creating was a Uncle Tom class. They was creating a house nigger class. by educating them. Like today, they create a house nigga class, right, to go against the field niggas, who the ones who want to be free, the ones who don't want the white people here. They wanted to basically erase the indigenous mentality and the warrior energy out of our people. The warrior soul they wanted to erase out of our people. So what did they do? They took your children and educated them. They was teaching them how to read at that time. So they don't tell you that. They taught our people how to read at a certain time. But then when they start getting you in slavery, then they pass the law that you can't read. They don't want you to read. But they educate and let certain people read. I told you that's what Harvard was. Go back and look at the history of Harvard if you don't think what I'm saying is true. Go back and find out what Harvard originally was before it became an Ivy League school. They just changed it to that. Before it was a slave, indoctrination center. It was a slave indoctrination center. Harvard University was a slave indoctrination center. You see, these white people don't even know nothing about that. They don't know nothing about that. The Europeans, they needed to create a slave class. So again, the best way to create a slave class is to educate them. You see, and again, I'm not just talking about reading, writing, and math. I'm talking about indoctrination. Y'all black, you African, this is the land of the white man, saying stuff like this. Y'all supposed to serve white people. Y'all from Africa and this, that, and the third. Basically start lying to the children. That's why I say we supposed to educate our own children. We ain't supposed to let these snow monkeys educate our children, man. These racist snow monkeys. You ain't supposed to let them do that, because look at what they did when they got a chance to educate your children. They start turning out your children's mind, start putting all kind of degenerate messages in their head. Even to this day, who you think is exposing? A lot of times you in school, your children in school, you don't know what they're exposing your children to. They're exposing your children to a whole lot of sodomite activity of talking about is normalizing sodomy and all kinds of degenerate behavior. But my point is that back then they were trying to basically, like you said, harvesting something. They were trying to basically indoctrinate the children. So therefore, you raise an Uncle Tom class of educated Negroes who basically gonna bow down and placate to these Caucasians, which is where a lot of these black so-called boule. This was the beginning of the boule. Basically, this was the beginning of the boule. People like Prince Hall, people like who else? It was a lot of them people. Frederick Douglass, all them people, all them educated Negroes who are the descendants of those indigenous children that were kidnapped or just taken from their parents and put in these places to be indoctrinated, because they knew that the future was these children. They had to have a slave mentality and put into these children. They tried to implant a slave mentality in these children, a second-class mentality, and that's what they did. You see, their parents were warriors and fighters and whatnot, and they had to kill them off and raise the children to be slaves. That's why these races, they had slave mills going where they wanted to basically breed slaves. They wanted to keep them on the plantation. You know how how you domesticate a bird and make it into a chicken. Like you'll take wild birds or whatever, and you put them in cages and you domesticate, you feed them yourself, because the goal is to make domesticated birds that are going to listen to you. And that's what they were doing with black people. They wanted to take their children and make them into Negroes, which is what they did. That's when they stopped calling you American Indians and start calling you American Negroes and so on and so forth. Can't you see logically that's how it really happened? What makes more sense? They brought Africans over here who couldn't do nothing versus the indigenous people that could do everything. Who am I going to enslave? Who am I going to enslave? And they said it that they enslaved the indigenous people. The Indians were slaves here, but it was, and they admit it, but it wasn't the Mongoloids though. So if the Mongoloid Siberians who call themselves Native Americans were not slaves here, then who else could they have been talking about? You see, they want to jump over that. They admit in records and documents that they enslaved indigenous people here, and they said Indians. They didn't say black people. They didn't have to, because Indian and Negro was synonymous at one time. When they said Negro and Indian, it was the same thing. They referred to us as Negro Indians at one time. That was all. Then they just cut the Indian part off. They referred to us as the copper-colored races. Then they cut the copper part off and was called us colored people. Come on now. Come on. I need my people who could think here. I don't want no slow people. You see, because it's always these slow Negroes who sit up here and believe everything these racist, lying historians say about us being from Africa and they saved us with slavery by bringing us here. How? How could you save us when y'all couldn't save yourselves? Look at how they were. Go back to 1600s. Can you imagine in the 1400s? They was even worse. That's why when a lot of them came over here, a lot of them married into indigenous tribes because they did that out of survival. A lot of the white women and all that, they got, or the white males that come over here, they got with the indigenous people and got into the tribes. That's why a lot of times you see some mixed race looking people amongst our people, because that's the white Europeans that intermarried into the indigenous tribes. That did happen. Yeah, that happened. You have some Mongoloids that intermarried, but keep in mind the foundation of indigenous nationality, indigenous Americans, was black people, not the Mongoloids, because they got it twisted. They like to say that the Mongoloids were the indigenous native of this land, and black Africans came and mixed in with them, and that's bullshit. That's a lie. That is a bold-faced lie. They was not bringing no Africans here because they didn't have the resources to bring Africans here. How can you bring Africans here and y'all can't even feed yourself? How do you get money for boats and stuff like that? Why would you bring Africans in who are just as messed up as you are? Y'all all from different continents. Nobody's from America, but yet y'all gonna come here and y'all built up this country and built up plantations. Get the hell out of here. What they did was enslave the indigenous people. That makes more sense. If I'm down bad somewhere and I see somebody next to me that I could have access to that's in the same land and they eating good and they living on property, and I'm down bad, who I'm gonna go step to? I'm going to go step to the indigenous people that got the land, who they said they had structures and houses and 2-story house. Go listen to this thing. This is from their mouth. It was not the Native Americans. They lying. That's the only part they tell a lie about. But when they show the Indians, they look very dark. They do everything to show them as being other than being black people. What they'll do is make them extremely dark, bronze, but then they'll give them the straight hair, and then they'll give them the damn slanted eyes and whatnot. But if from afar, you could look at these as black people. You see, but they lying. They want to, again, they got to stick with the African lie. They got to stick with the African lie. You see, and a lot of these simple ass Negroes buy into it. A lot of simple minded Negroes buy into it. Okay. This is our land. This is our land. We are the only real Americans here that got, and we had nothing to do with Africa. We are not Africans. And again, you still got people like your Tariq Nasheeds. You still got people like all these other people that's coming up telling we come from Africa, we got African DNA, all life started in Africa. BS. BS. B to the S. They could not have survived here without indigenous black people. Hell, they couldn't survive on the plantation. Let me tell you something. You don't chase down cotton pickers. You don't send groups of motherfuckers out here with guns and hunting people and going state to state to chase down cotton pickers. Because as y'all clearly said, anybody could pick cotton. Why would you waste resources and go and grabbing guns and running people down who just picking cotton? Why would you do that? You only do stuff like that to people who are valuable. But then they turn around on the flip side and say, oh, you niggas wasn't valuable. You just was picking cotton. Anybody could get that. We don't owe y'all no reparation. Then why the fuck was you running us down then? Why was you chasing us when we walked off the plantation when we didn't want to serve you? Why was you chasing us? Why you set up police forces to chase our people? If you say that we didn't help y'all, you try to make it seem like you helped us. The nerve of these people. One of these motherfuckers actually had the nerve. One of these racist crackers, these Caucasian, these KK clowns, going to talk about, yeah, we taught the niggers how to comb their hair. What? Y'all motherfuckers had fleas and ticks in your fur. You couldn't teach us how to comb nothing. Y'all don't even know how to wash your ass. Even to this day, a lot of y'all don't know how to wash your ass. Y'all don't even use fucking washcloths. You don't even use washcloths. How the hell you want to teach us how to wash ourselves? Y'all don't even know how to wash ourselves. Black Americans are the cleanest people on earth. We are the cleanest hygienically on earth. We use washcloths. We brush our teeth. We very clean people. We're not nasty like them. You see, these are the people that spread disease here. These are the people that brought disease into this country. They did. That didn't come from us. All the STDs come from them. Having sex with animals. Bestiality. They do that shit today. They got beast porn. Okay? They got porn, they got actual pornography with them having sex with animals, with children, all kinds. This is the shit they was doing. But they got the nerve to talk about how they helped us. Help us do what? Helped us do what? We helped them. We always help them. We always help white people. Always. If it wasn't for indigenous black people here, the real Indians, they would have died off here a long time ago. Hell, the Moors, even though they not us, the Moors, they Africans, even though they not our people, but the Moors helped them in Europe. If it wasn't for the Moors in Europe, the black Moors, the Africans, if it wasn't for them in Europe, the Europe would have died out. These crackers died a long time ago. They would have died out. They was running around. They were walking around wearing burlap bags. They want to talk about fashion in Europe. Fashion in Europe comes from the black Moors. That comes from the Moors. Fashion in Europe comes from them. They brought fashion, medicine, all that into Europe because these Europeans were down bad over there. They had all kinds of diseases and everything else. They were walking around wearing burlap bags, sleeping in the same house with their animals. You see, also and having intercourse with them, the sheep. And the Moors showed them how to eat full course meals. But that's their European history. They got the Africans to thank for that. Over here in America, they got the indigenous so-called Black Americans to thank for their livelihood here. The New York Stock Exchange, the first commodity on the New York Stock Exchange was indigenous black people, was American indigenous black people. Why? We were valuable. That's why you don't put nothing on the stock market that's not valuable. You don't trade and sell people, buy and sell people if they're not valuable. They had us on auction blocks because we were valuable. You know, like how they do it today in basketball, where they had these athletes, they had these bucks up there, these niggas in their underwear standing up there. Well, now, why they do that? Why the white man still do that? Why he still got these niggas getting up there in their underwear, stand up there? You ever see them do this shit when they doing is it the NFL or the NBA? I think they doing them both. Where they got these niggas standing up there in their underwear. Y'all see that? You see that where they got these niggas standing up in their underwear because they really want to see their rods because they're a bunch of sodomites. Why would you have this is a fucking football game, a football game? Why would you have men stand up there in their underwear? Yeah, the NFL, right? Why would you have men standing up there in their underwear? That goes back to slavery. That's why they like to do that shit. And they say that they the owners. They say that they're the owners of the team, which means they're the owners of those men on the team. That's how they see it. I ain't never seen them make a fucking cracker. One of them white boys stand up there in their underwear. Why they make black men do it? And you dumb niggas get up there and do it. You stand on display where they look at these crackers looking at your ass and your rod and whatnot because they sodomites or they women getting freaked off. Why they got a bunch of men? Ain't no fucking way in hell I would stand up there. You keep your goddamn contract. That you niggas still acting like slaves. And you make them all their money. Just like when they came in here. You made them their money. If it wasn't for you, they would have died here. Don't you ever let them tell you any different. They didn't bring no African slaves over here. They brought indigenous. They didn't bring nobody. They took indigenous people that were already here. Indigenous black Americans, indigenous Indian, so-called black people, they enslaved our people. It was millions of us here, millions. And that's who built this country. That's who built this economy. That's what put these crackers in the land, had the things they have. We did that for them. And they got the nerve to talk shit about us. We gave America culture. Our music, our food, we gave America culture. And all the things they did to our people was because they hated our people because they were jealous that we had this country before they did, that we were living here and they had to come here and rely on us. They called us niggas out of hatred because they hated the fact that we didn't help them. We didn't give them things. They expected us to give over land to them and we didn't because for the longest time we fought for the land. Because let me tell you something, they didn't get no foothold in on the land. It took them a long time to get hold of this country, a long time, about 300 years. Because think about it. It wasn't really till the 1800s. They started coming over here in the 1400s. You know, that's when Columbus came here. But when they started coming in the 1500s, 1600s, they was just regular people out here. It wasn't no government here. It was all the indigenous people here. It was many indigenous tribes, a lot of indigenous tribes, basically a bunch of niggas. A bunch of niggas all over America. You see, a bunch of nigga tribes all over America who've been here, who was offshoot to the Mayan nation that came here. And like I said, they was here for thousands of years. They was doing all the stuff here. They had settlements here. They had villages here. They had buildings here. Don't let them lie and tell you that they came here and there was nothing here. They just thought that the so-called indigenous people would help them. And when that didn't happen, they got violent. They got violent. They came with God, G-O-D. Then they went with the gun, G-U-N. They used the God and the gun to take people into hostage, take people's land, take people into bondage. They intermarried with the females and whatnot, because you had some bed wenches back then. Like now, you had some bed wrenches. So they basically enslaved the people, the indigenous people. That's it. And that's all slavery ever been built on the indigenous people of America, the real Americans, who they try to Africanize. Once they got finished using our people, then they start Africanizing us and changing the story. Yeah, we went to Africa and got y'all. Y'all just came over here and picked cotton. Y'all ain't know how to do nothing. Right. Let me tell you something. Even down to, remember I said about their accents, how their accents all of a sudden disappeared? The English, the Irish, the Scottish, those were the people that were here. The Irish, the Scott Irish, and the English, which is all the same people, all the same crackers, right? They was over here, and like I said, they came with their own English, Irish, Scottish accent. Where'd it go? Where did it go? Answer, they started talking like the indigenous black people here. That's where their accent went. Because when the guy was trying to explain, well, what happened to their accents? Accents don't just go away, because if you hear your father and your mother and them all sounding English, then you're going to sound English too. So after a while, because George Washington, yeah, he was born in America, but he ain't American. I got in an argument with some guy about and I debunked him. He couldn't say shit after that. This guy gonna talk about the founding fathers of America. No, they wasn't no founding fathers of America. They were founding fathers of the United States of America, the United States, which was the United Colonies here in America. They were founding fathers of the United Colony of Europeans here. America was already here, and the real Americans were already living here. The copper-colored races. That's why when you look up the term American, they tell you who the real Americans are. The copper-colored races who were found here by Europeans. They talking about black people. They talking about our people. And it really makes me mad when you get these Pan-African Sambos like Umar Johnson, all these other James Smalls and them who trying to hide our lineage, who want to Africanize us, because see, these niggas get paid to do that. They get paid to push this Pan-African bullshit on our people. And like I said, you had the African Colonization Society, one of the biggest proponents of pushing that back in the 1800s. They the ones that started with that Pan-African bullshit. You see, they the ones that put people like W.E.B. Du Bois. He was the first one to get a degree, a mulatto, half white, and a sodomite. They was the first one to put him through college. He got a degree from Harvard University. Guess what? For history. Basically, he just basically repeated what these Caucasians told him to say about black history or African history. He basically agreed with them, and they gave him a degree. Like how they do with you niggas anyway, when you just basically agree with the white man's lies and they just go ahead and give you a damn degree. Umar, you black history, African American studies teachers teaching that bullshit to our people. We ain't no African American. There's no such thing as an African American. They made that shit up. You mean the first Americans? Because that's the only thing I answer to. First American of America. Same way you got the Native Americans. We first Americans. We was always in America. Always. We are the only indigenous people here. And again, it makes all the sense in the world that they would enslave our people. See, because our people were not together. You see, this is why they wanted to indoctrinate the younger generation, because the younger generation ended up siding with them. The younger generation, basically the young, they sold out the old people, and basically they were given a place in society to be Negroes. They let them be the Negro, the new Negro, the educated Negro, the ones who no longer call themselves Indian, because they was trying to wipe out the whole indigenous tribal thing amongst our people. Because these whiteys, they wanted to be America. They wanted to be the face of America. Because see, once they got the slave population under control, got our people picking cotton, growing cotton, cutting tobacco, doing all this stuff. I mean, everything for these people, everything. The land came to them. They got into California because of indigenous black people. You know that? They didn't even know how to get across the Sierra Mountains and whatnot to get into California, because you got to cross over from the East Coast. You got to go through the mountains. Our people know how to get all over this country. And then how you know our people are indigenous to this country? When we was running off the plantations, what was we running to? If we not indigenous to America, when we would leave the plantations, what was we running to? How did we know about these places like Florida and all these other places? How did we know that? How do we know how to leave and go down these trails and whatnot? Why would you chase a bunch of cotton pickers? If we were so unimportant, why didn't you just leave us alone if we was that unimportant? Because I'm gonna quote one of the racist Caucasians out there and who was fighting on the side of the Confederate Army, because he said, and I quote, the Union wants to stop slavery. He said, but slavery is the lifeblood of the South. Slavery was the lifeblood of the South. In other words, if you kill slavery, you basically killing off the white people. You killing off the white people if you stop slavery. Okay, they knew that. That's why they was fighting so hard. That's why they would chase you down if you ran off a plantation, because they had you doing way more than just picking cotton. You was clearing roads, chopping trees, building houses, everything, catching food for these crackers. Because they obviously, like I said, they didn't know how to feed themselves because they wouldn't have starved here. Who you think was catching food for them? Catching wild cows and bison and buffalo and catching birds for them and everything. Then they're gonna tell us we can't eat the food. It's only for them. We could catch the food and cook the food for them, but they give us pig to eat. That's why they was giving us all kind of pig and all nasty shit to eat, while we catching chickens for them, birds for them, domesticating, catching cows for them, wild bison, buffalo, all that, fishing for them. We did all that. Because if they did it, they would have did. If they could have survived without us, they would have did it. But they couldn't. How you go from being down bad to starving to eating each other to now all of a sudden y'all on plantations, y'all eating good, you got people working for you, got your harvesting your crops. That's because the indigenous black people did that for y'all. That's why. Because if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't have did nothing. Oh yeah, we tolerated way too much. But you got a bunch of sellouts. You had a bunch of goddamn sellouts that was helping them, like today. You got a bunch of educated Sambos that helped them. You got niggas that'll sit here and talking about, I'm a Christian and I'm a proud Christian and I'm glad slavery happened, where the white man brought us from Africa and taught us about Jesus. You got dumb niggas that believe this. You got simple-minded Negroes that believe this, and they educated. The biggest deficit amongst our people is not the ignorant black people, even though the ignorant black people are a big deficit, but it's the educated ones too, right along with the ignorant. Because even the ignorant are educated. They're educated to be dummies. Just like the educated are basically educated dummies that believe in the lies of the white man, that believe in his lies, that believe in his propaganda, that believe in his bullshit. You got these people still believing they got black skin. They don't even know why they call black people. They too slow to understand that black is a term of erasure, because they want to erase our indigenous culture and heritage here. So they just call us black people, Negroes, everything. Y'all not no Indians, Walter Plecker and all of them. Why, if we not the Indians, then how come they reclassified us so many times? You see, they want to ignore the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. They rather give these mongoloids credit for what we did. They want to tell you that the Native Americans today were the American Indians of yesterday. Were not. They were not. And a lot of our people, so many of our people here, they couldn't enslave all of our people. So it was more of our people that were free here than those who were enslaved. You had certain states. That's why you only had certain states that had slavery, like Virginia. They had to have slavery, because I told you, without slavery in these places, they would have been fucked up. These Caucasians would have been messed up out here. If it wasn't for slavery, like they said out their own mouth, slavery is the lifeblood of the South. Without slavery, these Caucasians would be messed up. I'm gonna prove to you even more, even into the 20th century. Why do you think there was a Great Depression? Why do y'all think it was? They won't admit it, but go check it out. You know why there was a Great Depression? Why the food was scarce, as they said, and things were scarce. You know why? Because black people started leaving they were still plantations, but you had black people sharecropping. After slavery, because the white people, they wanted black people to stay. They needed the labor. They needed not just the labor, but they needed to harvest and grow shit. When black people started leaving the South, that created a big deficit in work. So they couldn't enslave black people no more. So they would literally, these crackers would get in front of the trains and get in front of the roads and block the roads from. Now this is in the 1900s. Now in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, they would get in front of the train stations, in front of the block roads when black people wanted to leave the South and no longer pick cotton or be no damn sharecroppers or grow food for them, because they knew that they shit was gonna go under. And they would literally at times stop them, and they would create laws and tell people when the black women didn't want to take care of the white people or their kids anymore, you know, these dirty bastards passed laws telling them if you living in South Carolina, North Carolina, you got to go to work for a white person. This is the type of shit they was on, because they didn't want to take care of their own children. They didn't want to work their own property, because they claim that black people lazy. No, they not. Because when black people left these places, all their farms started to go under. That's what created the depression. That's when the banks started taking the farms, because the land that was historically black people land was taken from them and given to these crackers, these racist Caucasians. And then when black people wasn't doing no sharecropping for them no more, the land went under. The land went under. And that's what created the depression. When black people stopped working, the land went under. That's really why the depression happened. Class, that's really why that happened. They don't want to admit that we are the lifeblood of America. That everything stopped when we stopped working. Everything stopped. If we didn't help them, it wouldn't have been no United States. They would have stopped coming here, number one, because they wouldn't have had no slave population to help them. They would have stopped coming here. And that's the truth. That is the real truth that they don't want to deal with. They don't like that. They don't want to admit that if it wasn't for us, they would have died out here. We created a fucking paradise for these people to come in. How do they show their appreciation? Calling us niggers, talking crazy, hanging our people, burning our people, lynching our people. A history that they want to hide now. They don't want to talk about that history. But that's the truth. They don't like the truth. They don't like to hear the truth. They'd rather go with the lie that they got us from Africa and all we did was pick cotton. They want to go with that lie and debunk the hell out of that all day. They forget. The thing with these Caucasians, these racist Caucasians, is they forget that they write down all history. They always write down history. They always keep records of things, even when they don't think that it's gonna come back to bite them in their ass. Historically, they got records in history of how fucked up they was here. They was really messed up over here. They was super down bad. Anytime you boiling damn leather belts and eating leather belts, you that starving, you can't even catch animals. That's how fucked up they was here. And eating snakes and frogs, whatever you could catching snakes and eating them, and then you start eating each other. But then they got the nerve to call us cannibals. They don't even know their own history. They really don't know their own history. If white people, these racist Caucasians, knew their history here in America, they would shut the fuck up. They would really shut the fuck up if they knew their real history. But of course, they're gonna lie and they're gonna make up shit and talk about, yeah, we helped you, black. You ain't help us do shit. We helped you. We helped you. We helped you. Don't you ever forget that. We helped them. Hell, you want to talk about the original identity theft? Any Caucasian person, any white person here calling themselves American, that's identity theft, because they're not Americans. That's identity theft. They're Europeans in America. And like I said, you should never let them forget that, because they sure sit up here and tell this lie, calling us African Americans. We're not even African, and they call us African Americans, but they call themselves American. But I'm like, hey, ain't European Americans? If African American can apply to us, and we're not even African, why don't Europeans, which really applies to y'all, why ain't European American apply to y'all? Because y'all the only immigrants. I told you, they want to make it seem like they immigrant. I told you, give it time. They're already doing it already. They already sit up here telling you that they Indians. They're already coming up here. They delusional as fuck. They already up here telling you that they Indians. They delusional as hell. They already up here telling you that they Indians. And you know what you dumb, simple-minded Negroes gonna do? You're gonna be like, yeah, they are. Yeah, I guess white people are indigenous. So, man, they got Choctaw and Chickasaw and all that. Man, come on, man. Do you see how the original Choctaw and Chickasaw look? They were black, so-called black people. But you got a lot of simple-minded Negroes And I'm gonna just say it, a lot of you black, so-called pro-black groups, a lot of you Pan-Africanists, you black Muslims, you Hebrew Israelites, you black Christians, y'all sell the soap for these racist Caucasians. You call a white man a devil, you call out, y'all say that, but then you selling his lies. You sell a picture of we came over here from Africa. Y'all niggas claim y'all men of the Lord, you Israelites. Y'all don't even, how y'all men of the Lord, you sitting up here adhering to the lies of these racist Caucasians? You don't even know history. How you men of the Lord, you niggas study the Bible and all that, but you can't study basic history. You know, you don't want to, you want to be lazy, don't want to go back and look at the history, the real history of our people here. You want to sit up here and call these mongoloid mixed race natives, call them Gad. Call them Gad. They ain't no damn Gad. You Gad. You Gad. Because you Israelites are simple-minded, you claim to be men of the Lord. How you going to be men of the Lord and everything you're talking about is based on bullshit and lies? That 12 tribe sign is lies. That's a lie. The only tribes that was here was in America, and it was black tribes, so-called black indigenous tribes. We the only people of America. Everybody else comes from someplace else. Everybody. We ain't no damn Africans. We didn't come from the west coast of Africa. That's y'all buying into that bullshit from these racist Caucasians. That's why I say I can't take you Hebrew Israelites seriously. I can't take you people in the Nation of Islam seriously. I can't take you damn black Christians seriously who say nonsense like, oh, if it wasn't for the white man, we wouldn't be here. I can't take none of y'all seriously. Definitely can't take you educated pro-black and African niggas seriously. Definitely can't take y'all seriously. Can't take Umar Johnson seriously. He's a straight clown. Umar Johnson is a straight up clown, and he don't even mind being a whole meme no more. He don't even mind not being taken seriously no more. He don't even mind being seen as a clown. He don't even mind, and that's sad on so many levels. So to answer that question, raw and uncut, hell no, the Europeans couldn't have survived here because out of their own mouths they said it. If it wasn't for slavery, like I said, you don't chase down people who haven't contributed nothing. You don't put worthless people on the New York Stock Exchange. You don't go and all of a sudden your condition changed this country. When y'all was trying to survive on your own, your condition changed in this country. When you was trying to survive on your own, your condition changed. It didn't change until you added slavery. Until you started enslaving the indigenous black Americans of this land. Again, I'm just using black, so you know what I'm saying. The indigenous copper-colored race, the so-called black, that's when y'all luck changed. That's when everything changed for y'all. But until that time, y'all was all screwed up over here. Y'all was all messed up. You was down back. And then the rest of your European people, brothers that came over here, is because of what was built off of our backs. There wouldn't have been no place for Italians to come, Germans to come, French to come, Irish to come, Italians, English, Scottish. It wouldn't have been nowhere for these people to come to if it wasn't for us. You know, Donald Trump is German. He's not American. Donald Trump is German. Okay? We got a German president. You don't get to move to another place and change your That's not how they go. You are where you come from. So that means that the only people who are indigenous to America is the people who are of America was always here, and that's black Americans. The only people who you can't send back to no place else. If you're gonna sit up here and lie and claim that we African, you can go ahead and do that all you want to, but we ain't answering to it. Let the Africans who actually coming over here from Africa into America, let them be African Americans. Those are African Americans. We are not. We are first Americans of America. That's it. That is all. Let them be that. You see, they want to, all Europeans, like I said, we gave them a lane to come here. So when they sit their funky asses up here and try to act all uppity and act like they high class, it's because it's built on our backs. It's built on our backs. And you had a lot of boule educated coons, because that's those are the ones who gave them the foothold in, who basically sided against our indigenous people, the educated Negroes, children who they took and educated and used them as spies, used them as contact, used them as intermediaries for when they wanted to go against the people, take the land from the people. People like your Frederick Douglass was an agent for these people. People like Marcus Garvey. You know the niggas that Umar Johnson loved to talk so much about. He wanted to name his FDMG, Run DMC Academy after that shit that ain't even opening. And man, if y'all sitting up here taking Umar Johnson seriously, y'all need y'all head examined, man. If you sitting here taking Umar Johnson and all these Pan-Africanists seriously, y'all ain't figured out by now these niggas are sellouts. They are the descendants of all the early Boule. When they talk about them people in Black History Month, all them people that they talk about that's supposed to be such accomplished people, don't you know these are all sellouts? In Black History Month, it's always the same sellouts. Martin Luther King was a sellout. Malcolm X was a sellout after he left the Nation of Islam. He was a sellout. Name W.E.B. Du Bois was a sellout. I can't say Booker T. Washington because at least Booker T. Washington, at least he created colleges where he was teaching indigenous people to be farmers and agricultural. He's basically raising agricultural engineers. And you know why? The only reason why Alabama gave him the permission to open up a college, because these crackers didn't even want us to have our own colleges, because they knew that if we had our own colleges and taught our own, that we would be further ahead than them. And that's why they tried to hold back on letting us educate our own people. They're going to tell us we couldn't have no schools set up for law or medicine because they didn't want us competing with them, because we already had the medicine down pat. When we were making the early medicines of this land that was curing people was made by Black people, indigenous Black people. Now they'll step into y'all always say y'all did everything. Y'all was kings. Y'all was doing. They love to go and say that, but it's true. Don't they say that about white people? Ain't they the ones that always talking about they was the Vikings and white people created and invented everything in this country? Which is a damn lie. Big lie. They always talking about what they invented, what they did. Black people ain't never did nothing. But then when we say the truth, that the mass majority of things that was invented here, the foundation, the economy of this country came from us. Oh, y'all, we was kings. Y'all always saying y'all did this. But when white people say it and tell a lie, it's okay. It's history when they lie and when we tell the truth, we lying. When they tell a lie, that's the truth. They call that history. They call it history when they lie. When we tell the truth, oh, it's pseudo and all that. But then you get these dumb niggas that get up here and go, yeah, you niggas, we ain't no Americans. Remember how Umar was going so hard against us saying we indigenous? Remember Umar was going hard? And I'm like, wait a minute, bro. You got 6 degrees and you're supposed to know so much about history. You mean to tell me you don't know that Black people, so-called Black Americans, the real indigenous Americans of America, the real first Americans, the real American Indians? You mean to tell me you don't know that? Yeah, he know that, but he can't say that, because by his 6 degrees, which is really a symbol or a sign, for those Masons and what, he can't say the truth. So again, he has to tell a lie. But here's the thing, Umar, you're gonna be off on your own, man, because nobody want to hear that Pan-African shit no more. Black people are waking up. Black Americans are waking up to the fact that they're the real American indigenous people, that we are the real first Americans of America. And like I said, it makes all the sense in the world that they would enslave us. It don't make no sense for them to bring Africans here. It wouldn't have made no sense. The only way that would have made sense is if they was up good and they had everything going, and then they would bring Africans in, and then they could, basically, boss the Africans, because you'd have to be in a position where you got everything locked down, the economy and everything else. But keep in mind, like I said, they didn't. They was in survival mode over here. So why would you go and sail a ship to go get other people, and then you're gonna have to compete for food and whatnot, unless you was gonna eat the Africans, unless you was gonna kill the Africans and eat them, which they wouldn't even do. No, they're gonna enslave the indigenous people who right here doing all this stuff. That makes all the sense in the world. Tell me it don't. Tell me it don't, that they didn't enslave the indigenous people here and take their land and force them into labor and force them to get food for them. Force them to go get, force them to grow crops for them, harvest for them. That was the game changer, the adding of indigenous Black slaves, indigenous American slaves, not no Africans. Miss me with that ethnogenesis shit, Tariq, which again, you on your ism radio right now, you eventually trying to pivot away from the whole we came from Africa on slave ship. Because again, Tariq Nasheed don't know no fucking history. He don't. He making up shit too. He lying. He don't know no history. Because if you could sit up here and tell me we had an ethnogenesis and you keep trying to sell that bullshit, you know different than Umar Johnson. You on that Pan-African shit too, Tariq Nasheed. You on that Pan-African shit too. And notice Umar Johnson and Tariq Nasheed both got Arabic names. Your Arabs were your first slave traders. You know that?
So for you people in the Nation of Islam who like to go to Mecca, or you black Sunni Muslims who like to go to Mecca or share a Quran and an Allah with these Arabs, don't you know these people had our people enslaved? It wasn't just the white man, but you'll sit up here and call these people your brother and whatnot. These Arabs, these funky ass Arabs, they had our people in slavery too, man. You understand that? Well, no, I'm not gonna say they didn't have our people. They had the Africans in slavery. I'll take that back. But even so, we ain't supposed to be sharing no religion with them, because again, they look at you as converts. You see, I'm gonna tell you how Malcolm X was a sellout. When Malcolm X got on TV, and he said that Elijah Muhammad was sleeping with underage girls, which was a lie. That's a lie. He said he tried to make Elijah Muhammad seem like a pedophile. He said Elijah Muhammad was sleeping with young underage girls, which is a lie. He slept with young women, 19 and 20 years old, grown women, because if that was the truth, then the police would have locked Elijah Muhammad up for sleeping on underage girls. That never happened. You know why? Because it wasn't true. And now keep in mind, the FBI had plants in the Nation of Islam. They had bugs in Elijah Muhammad's home. You mean to tell me that if he was sleeping with underage girls and whatnot, don't you think they would have locked Elijah Muhammad up? Why they ain't lock Elijah Muhammad up? Why they ain't lock Elijah Muhammad up? Why did the white man let Malcolm X go on TV and say that? Why? At one point, Malcolm X was seen as a threat to America, or a threat to so-called white supremacy. Then all of a sudden, he's sitting on TV going and talking against Elijah Muhammad. That's not a sellout. That's not a sellout. Elijah Muhammad raised Malcolm X up. If it wasn't for Elijah Muhammad, there wouldn't have been no Malcolm X. There wouldn't have been a Malcolm X. So why would you go against your leader and lie about him sleeping with underage girls? Why would you get on the white man's TV and say that bullshit after this man helped you? All because he told you don't say nothing about the Kenny thing, because these people were really hostile about that. He said, just don't even say nothing about that. And he decided to break rank. Once he broke rank and sold out, and he went and grew that hair, that beard on his face, he started talking that Pan-African shit too. Did you see Malcolm X? Before he died, he was wearing a damn dashiki. He got with Ruby D, Ozzie Davis. He started hanging around them sellouts, Ruby D and Ozzie Davis. And what's her name? The poet Maya Angelou. These were all sellouts, man. Who you think started financing Malcolm X, paying for his trips? Why you think his wife sent their kids to UN schools? Malcolm X wasn't a diplomat. His wife was a sellout, and so was he. I know you don't like to hear that, because you like to hear that bullshit. That movie Spike Lee made, that lie. That Malcolm X movie was a goddamn lie from start to finish. Because if you really read the book and whatnot, Alex Haley plagiarized. He lied a lot in the Malcolm X biography, because most of the stuff he wrote after Malcolm X was dead. But Malcolm X sold out. He started pushing that Pan-African shit. He started pushing that. He put on the dashiki and whatnot. He started doing. And notice now the white man promotes Malcolm X as a hero, as an icon. Why is that? You know, if Malcolm X was really for our people, they would have never promoted him as an icon. They would have never put money into making a movie about Malcolm X. But Spike Lee, this demon, this sellout Sambo, Spike Lee, he went and made that movie, lied on the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, lied about Malcolm X. He didn't tell the part about the fact that Malcolm X's whole family was in the Nation of Islam. He left that part out. He left the part out. He make up some story about some guy named Baines, as if it was some crooked nigga in the Nation of Islam that was doing evil. That's not, that person never even existed. Spike Lee created a whole lot of fake characters in there to make the Nation of Islam look back. And like I said, the fact that Malcolm X went on TV and lied on Elijah Muhammad, he went on the white man's TV. How the white man go from being the devil to you sitting on the TV talking about, man, and Elijah Muhammad having sex with underage girls and he losing his mind? How you talking about that man like that? Malcolm X was a goddamn sellout. And I know people don't like to hear that, because they like to romanticize Malcolm X, but he sold out. And even my father, who was around at that time, my father, when Malcolm X got killed, he said everybody around that time was calling Malcolm X a sellout. So y'all don't know about that. My father was around about that. He's still alive. He'd tell you Everybody was calling Malcolm X a sellout once he left the Nation of Islam. They called him a sellout. They just started flipping this narrative in the 70s and the 80s where they started making Malcolm X look like an icon. Because the only reason the white man made him look like an icon because he went against Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. That's the only reason. And it wasn't the nation that killed him, it was the government that killed Malcolm X. They killed him. You see, I do respect to Elijah, but could Elijah have been an agent? No. How was Elijah Muhammad an agent? How could Elijah Muhammad have been an agent? Yeah, Martin Luther King was a sellout too. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X was sellouts. Jesse Jackson, all of them. All of them. Rosa Parks, all of them. They was all sellouts. Marcus Garvey, all of them. W.E.B. Du Bois. Like I said, they got Malcolm X to sell out. And when Malcolm X, like I said, when Malcolm X was starting to get with the civil rights movement and whatnot, and they were starting to bring that, because the whole goal, once Malcolm X came back from Mecca, he talked about he left the Nation of Islam. So then why did he take the name El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz? Because the name Shabazz is not even an Arabic name. It's that name was made in the Nation of Islam. Because the goal was Malcolm X was supposed to take over the Nation of Islam. That's what they was raising him to do. And once whatever he fell out with the government over, they ended up killing him. And they used Wallace D. Muhammad in his place. Elijah Muhammad's son, who was also a sellout. Wallace D. Muhammad. He was a sellout too. Okay? Yeah, they loved Martin Luther King because he was a subservient Negro. He was a subservient Negro, just like Malcolm X became. Why are you going to go on TV and shit on your leader like that? Over a lie. Like I said, if Elijah Muhammad really did that, they would have been locked him up. Don't you know they was itching to lock him up? But they couldn't because that didn't happen like that. They knew the women that he impregnated. They knew that. Malcolm X, do you know Malcolm X was sitting up there trying to record women saying that Elijah Muhammad started having sex with them as teenagers? You know that Malcolm X tried to do that? He was trying to record women saying that. Look it up. Now, if that's not no agent shit, I don't know what is. He was trying to get women to get on the phone and say they was having sex with Elijah Muhammad at 14 and 15 years old. And they said no. They said no. That's the only reason why they didn't get that. That women wouldn't say, because that was a lie. This is your Malcolm X that y'all motherfuckers love so much, man. Malcolm X was a sellout. You gonna go against another black man who raised you, who took you out the gutter, who raised your family. You know his brothers and sisters was in the Nation of Islam. Why Spike Lee didn't mention that? Why Spike Lee didn't mention that? He make it seem like some crooked nigga named Baines raised him up. It was no brother Baines. He's a liar. Spike Lee's a boule sellout too. That's why they make that nigga go to the Knicks games holding damn purses, because he's a sellout, because he's part of that whole thing of emasculating black men. They push him out here holding purses. Him, Shannon Sharp, all these niggas they make get out here and hold purses because they trying to make you black men into a bunch of sodomites. They trying to soften black men. Let's get it out now. Let's get it out. Malcolm X sold out. It's raw and uncut, man. It's raw and uncut. It's real. That's how we giving it up. But listen, man, I'm about to end this again. Yeah, Malcolm X was compromised and he became an informant. There was a whole lot of these niggas that's informants, man. And Dick Gregory was too. Dick Gregory was a sellout too. His son was in our community at one time, and he even said his father was a sellout. He also said something else that I'm not going to say that his father did. I'm going to leave that alone. But his son was in our community. So I know Dick Gregory too. And them niggas that watched Malcolm X, Martin Luther King get a Satv, Jesse Jackson, they was down with the program too, man. All them guys are sellouts, man. They always pushing that African-American bullshit to our people. All of them. Even that Kwanzaa nonsense. That Kwanzaa bullshit. All of us being pushed pushing that garbage to our people. When Malcolm X put the dashiki on, that nigga sold out, man. He grew that beard on his face, put the dashiki on, he sold out. That's it, man. Fasm Fest. I know, like, I'm sorry I heard y'all talking about Malcolm X because y'all programmed to believe that Malcolm X was for our people. No, he wasn't. He sold out. So, First American Street Music Festival, Fasm Fest. This coming up. This the 16th and the 17th. We only got a few days. This the last week. So could y'all please go and donate? Because we only got, you know how much we got left to raise? We got like maybe $3,000 to raise, 2,500, $3,000 at the most, 2,500 at the least. We trying to raise our last $3,000. We done did it pretty much. We raised the money we need. We just need another $3,000. We need to close it out for 24 grand. We need like $3,000. So can anybody, y'all just donate $30 and come on out. Y'all can ask me all these questions. I'll be up there answering. I got no problem answering questions. I'm bringing receipts. All them people I mentioned are sellouts. All them people, these educated Negroes, was up here pushing this lie that our people are Africans. And we came with some African slave trade. That's a damn lie. That is a bold-faced lie. So we're going to be talking about this May 16th and May 17th at Rodney Cook Senior Park. May 16th and May 17th, the First American Street Music Festival. We celebrating who we are as First Americans. Because see, over here, we the advanced people over here. We ain't answering to no African American. We ain't answering to no more black, no more African American, no more Negro. We First Americans of America. We the bronze men and bronze women of America. Bronze men, bronze women, First Americans of America. Straight up, that's who we really are. And we celebrating that May 16th and May 17th in Atlanta at Rodney Cook Senior Park. Rodney Cook Senior Park. Can y'all please go and give a donation? $20, $10, $30. Come on, let's make this close out with this last $3,000. I know everybody up here listening. We need that up to close out because we had to pay the police. We had to pay the be out there. We had to pay for stage, all that stuff. So we, like I said, 2,500 will do it. Like really 3,000 will really do it. But 2,500, we can do this last 2,500. We want the public to get involved. I don't put a few $1,000s into this myself, and like I said, we want the public to close it out for us. A lot of people, y'all done donated. I thank you. Could y'all please hit that? Go to fasmfest.com, hit the Cash App, $ ROA Collective, because we closed out the Cash App. Go to $ ROA Collective, make a donation toward Fasm Fest. You could come out there. It's a free event. We're going to have trail rides out there for the children. We're going to have the live entertainers. We're going to have DJ out there. We're going to be playing all of our oldies and goodies and the new good music, not no garbage. It's going to be a family event. We're going to have our feathered head crowns out there. The feathered head crowns that the indigenous First Americans wore, those were the feathers that went up in the air. Those are the American indigenous First American head crowns. So we're going to have those out there being sold, and they're going to be good too, because one of our good brothers in our community makes them, and they're good. They're going to be leather band with feathers. They're going to be worth it. They're gonna be out there selling them. We're gonna have the real American Indian headdresses out there, the feathered ones that go up in the air, not them Native American Mongoloid ones that go down. So y'all stop wearing those, because those are not our head crowns. I wore those at one point. I stopped wearing them because that's not our head crowns. Our feathered head crowns are the ones that go up in the air, and that's what our people were wearing. If you go back and look at the history, we wore the feathered ones that look like crowns on our heads. So those are going to be sold out there at the First American Street Music Festival. We're going to have plenty of merchandise, T-shirts and whatnot. It's going to be good food out there, good music. We're going to have the trail rides. We're going to have the kids come out playing, marching band out there playing. Yeah, man, we're going to have the trail rides. We're going to have the bouncy houses for the children. It's going to be a big event celebrating our First American heritage. Also celebrating that we the first people, that the real culture of America come from our people, man. The music, what is culture? Music is culture. Food is culture. As First Americans, because that's the only thing we should be answering to, not to black. Black don't mean shit. Black is nothing. Black is a term of erasure from these racist Caucasians. So there's no such thing as black people. We don't have black skin. They were trying to use it as a term of erasure. Now we just say it regularly like it's actually a real group of people. There's no such thing as black people. That term comes from racist Caucasians who wanted to erase us from American history, from who we truly are as Americans. So we celebrating who we are as First Americans. So come out and celebrate with us. Make a donation to the First American Street Music Festival. That's Fasm Fest. Go to our Cash App. You see it across the screen, ROA Collective. Even if it's $20, $10, $30, throw it in, man. We need your help, man. We ask and we appealing to y'all. We need to close this out before the festival. It's going to be this Friday coming. on the 16th. I'm sorry, this Saturday come. I'm sorry. Next Saturday, May 16th from 12 noon to 9 in the evening. We're just gonna have a good time. It's gonna be on Saturday and Sunday, 2-day event. And I'm gonna be out there running my mouth. I'm gonna be out there have my table set, unlimited epics table. My heroes, our heroes and sheroes, our bronze heroes and sheroes, superheroes out there. Have that set up. Unlimited Epics. Go to my site, unlimitedepics.com. I'm also going to be launching my brand, my fashion brand, Lord Manhattan, which is upscale leisure wear. Lord Manhattan. We're going to have a fashion show. We're going to have the men out there, the women out. We're going to be just, upscale leisure. Give y'all a little taste of what's to come. Website is coming up, lordmanhattan.com. You can buy stuff from there. You're going to like that. Lord Manhattan, because our people are supposed to be following the Lord, not God. So get ready for that. Also, I'm going to still be doing the Mentellect webinars, but because we're doing the festival, I don't have time to really prepare. I was supposed to be doing one for tomorrow, but I got to hold it off. I'm going to start taking, we're going to start taking, for the Eventbrite, we're going to start taking, admission, which is $15 for the Eventbrite. I'm going to be doing 2 hours, breaking down Mentellect, the fourth eye, the opening of the fourth eye, and the closing of the third eye. And also the next one after will be the Ultraverse, after the universe, the Ultraverse. I'm going to be breaking down whole next level knowledge to our people. So we're going to start taking payments for event for that, because I want to do a nice class before I teach that. So look out for that. You can go and Bright side or whatever soon and hit the link, and you'll be able to pay the $15 and we'll add you to the class. When we do the class, we'll let everybody know. When it's taking place on the Eventbrite, I'm gonna announce it. But this week I'm not going to do it, only because we prepare for the festival. Festival will be lit. We're gonna have a good time. We're celebrating who we are as First Americans. And like I said, this is a big step forward, because I'm good. Shout out to people like Dan Calloway and who was putting the work in and whatnot and all that. But now it's time to get off, take it beyond just the internet and start celebrating who we are as First Americans. We making a declaration here that we're not answering to African American no more. We're not answering to Black no more. We First Americans. And that's it, man. First Americans, FASMFest. FASMFest.com, FASMFEST.com. If you want to perform, if you want to sponsor something, you can do that. You can do all these things. You can be a part of the festival. Find out, call if you want to perform, set up a table, vent, whatever. There's a fee for it, but it's very affordable. Or you just want to make a donation, go to ROA Collective, $ROA Collective, and make a donation for the First American Street and Music Festival. We'll also send you a T-shirt if you do. If those who donate over $50, we'll send you a T-shirt. We're going to send you a First American T-shirt. Those of you who donated, we'll have some set aside for you. If you come, bring the children out, bring your family out so they can learn history. I'm going to be out there running my mouth. I'm going to be, I ain't going to be cussing, I just cuss up a storm here because I'm buck wild, I'm a little, I got that in New York and everything, but it's going to be clean, but I'm going to be raw and uncut. But I'm going to watch my mouth because it's David out there, here I could just be me, but there you're going to hear the history, the real history broken down. So FASMFest, First American Street and Music Festival, 2026. This is the second year we're doing. The first year we was calling it the American Indigenous, but we changed it over to the First American Street Music Festival. We have rebranded, and this is our second year doing it. So we're expecting a big turnout. Our people are in the streets in Atlanta as we speak, and they'll be out there all this week here and they're giving out flyers, letting it be known. This should be a big city event. Y'all should go out there and let people know. Those of you who are hearing this, go out and let people know we're going to have a hell of a time, man. We want it packed out there. We want to see our First Americans show up and show out. We're going to want to see our people celebrating and things like that, because it's a lot to celebrate, being that we coming into who we are. We coming into who we truly are. You see? And let me tell you something, man. These guys up here, they doing some celebration of Malcolm X. I don't know why y'all celebrating Malcolm X. Malcolm X sold out, man. I'm sorry that I had to hear that, man, but he did, man. He sold out. You see? Yeah, Malcolm X, Dick Gregory, all them dudes were sellouts, man. His son was in our community. I kid you not. He told let me just leave that alone. But Maybe I might tell y'all that at the festival what his son said to us, okay, about Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory was on the damn Breakfast Club talking about he super black and he pro-black. You know what this nigga had the nerve to say? Dick Gregory had the nerve to say, but when I die and I come back, I want to be white. That's what this nigga had the nerve to say. You so because white people so lucky. When I die, I want to come back and be white. That's what he had the nerve to say, Mr. Super Black did. There you go. That's how he always felt. It's the same Dick Gregory that was selling black people that Bohemian shake. How many of y'all remember back in the 80s, the Bohemian shake thing that he was selling, telling black people to drink that bullshit? Do you know that that stuff was full of soy? That shit was full of soy. That Bohemian drink stuff that get people to lose weight and whatnot, tell them to drink this stuff. That shit was full of soy. And he just put his name on it. Dick Gregory, that was his company. It was these crackers that made that shit. And they was using him to push soy to black people. Some of the worst thing you could push that in our people, because soy is what's in a lot of this food. It makes a lot of you men grow breasts. A lot of you men got man titties because you drinking soy. You eating soy. Especially you eating that Chinese food full of damn soy and soy sauce, soy. And that also creates tumors in women's bodies. Soy. That nigga was pushing that. You see, that bullshit he was pushing, that damn Bohemian drink. I remember that shit from the 80s. My father was trying to get that shit. I'm glad he never got it. That's what got you men out here growing man boobs. You got niggas out here with breasts out here. Young boys growing breasts because the food is full of soy, especially in your neighborhoods. That messes with your testosterone. And it causes tumors in women. Even Dr. Satv said soy is the worst thing our people could consume. But Dick Gregory was pushing that shit. Man, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. So Phasm Fest, come on out. Come on out. Come on, y'all travel in packs, man. Make this like your Mecca, man. Make this like the Mecca. Make this be the place where first Americans come and celebrate, because we doing this every year, man. We doing the first American Street Music Festival every year. So come on out, shake my hand, meet me. Let me know who you are. Hope to see you in the house, Sister Warrior. All you people that's in here who listen to me, come on out, man. I'm going to answer all your questions. Ain't no Leonard Peel, peace to you, brother. But Malcolm X get no respect in here, man. Sellouts don't get no respect. If I should sell out, y'all shouldn't have no respect for me. So how the fuck do Malcolm X get a pass? Malcolm X don't get no pass. And they said at the end when he died, once he found out, you know, he tried to go back and apologize to Elijah Muhammad. It was too late. He tried to go back and apologize. You see, sellouts don't get no play. I don't care. All that. Malcolm X was only good when he was in the Nation of Islam. After he got the Nation of Islam, he wasn't shit no more. Y'all like Malcolm X was in the Nation of Islam. When he became El Hajj Malik Shabazz and he went over there and got indoctrinated by them funky ass Arabs over there, man, fuck Malcolm X, man, and Martin Luther King. Fuck both of them. And Eldridge Cleaver and W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey. All of them sellouts. But that's it, man. Phasm Fest. Raw and uncut, man. Nobody getting spared here. All the sellouts getting exposed and revealed. Phasm Fest. FASMFT donation. Go to the $. If you want to become a part of the Republic of America worldwide, become a registered first American in the Republic of America, go to ROA Worldwide, ROAworldwide.com, and become a registered member of the Republic of America. We got our own American community. Because we the only real Americans here. We got our own American name. My last name, Manhattan, is an American name. American indigenous name, Manhattan. You see? And Buck, my nickname is what they call all strong bronze men. These Caucasians call the strong bronze men Bucks. So I like that name. Roll Buck. What they call the cowboys, buckaroos. Remember that term, buckaroo? They talking about our people, the original cowboys, the real bucks, the real men who was handling the steers and the cattle and catching them for these fucking crackers, man. Catching horses for them. They didn't know how to do shit here. But let me leave that alone. I'm about to wrap this up, man. Phasm Fest. Go, if you want to become a registered member of the Republic of America, go to ROA Worldwide. Register to become a member. Only if you serious, only if you about something. We don't want no Negroes with us. We don't want no Sambo Negroes with us. We don't want no nothing people with us. We only want serious progressive people joining our republic, our community, our American community. We don't want no niggas with us, man. We don't want no do nothing niggas, man, who want to be Christians and Muslims and Israelites. We ain't doing that over here. No Christians allowed. No Muslims allowed. No Israelites allowed in our community. This is an American community, and we living by law and order, natural law and natural order. Keep that bullshit indoctrination, the white man's religions. Keep his bullshit religions. We don't want none of his Christianity. No more Jesus. No more Allah. No more Jehovah. We don't need that. We don't eat pork over here, and we don't listen to pork. We don't eat pig because the indigenous Americans didn't eat pork. The white man brought pig here and forced our people to eat that. But anyway. Go to Unlimited Epics, buy a book. Oh, subscribe to my Mentellect Patreon. You can become a patron of my Mentellect Patreon. I do shows every night. Become a subscriber to Mentellect Patreon. That's MENTELLECT. Mentellect Patreon. You can join my American Mentellect Patreon. Go to the Mentellect Patreon. I'm going to also be doing, go to my Buck Manhattan channel where I talk about things dealing with pop culture, raw and uncut and real how it is. Also hit the subscribe, hit the thumbs up button on it, like this video. But thank you for listening. I'm sorry again, we had internet connection problems. AT&T be on some bullshit. You know, it is what it is. Again, thank you for letting me be my raw and uncut buck self. Letting Benjamin Manhattan go over there because he calmed down. Let him go over there and deal with Mentellect over here. Let the intellectual Lord Benjamin Manhattan be for Mentellect over there. That's my calm down version. Over here, we turn the fuck up. Buck Manhattan turning up all the way. Thank you all for listening. Also, check out American Indigenous channel, Sister Erin Vanzetta. She dropped a lot of knowledge. Check out Draconian Rules clothing line, one from our good brother. So again, come on out to Phasm Fest, May 16th, May 17th. Make a donation. Get in where you fit in. Thank you all for listening to us. Good night.
you